What's up guys, Tim Little. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Today's video, we're talking about one of my favorite finesse techniques to help produce fish, catch fish in the heat of summer. Have you been struggling to catch fish during the summer heat? This finesse technique has quickly become Matt and I's favorite go-to when the bite gets tough. We're talking about the Damiki rig, the jig and minnow, the strolling setup, whatever you want to call it. It has quickly become one of the best proven finesse techniques to catch fish in hot conditions, in tough conditions. So today we're going to talk about why it's become my favorite, and I have some baits and some tips for you guys to help produce more bites all the way through into fall. So what is strolling? Basically, it's a finesse technique that allows you to suspend or hover a bait in the water column. Now this could be fished on the surface, it could be fished down on the bottom. I fish it all different ways. But what's different, what's unique about it is it's taking a bait fished profile presentation, but it doesn't have the kicker tail. You know, up until the last few years, throwing a little 2.8 size Kitech, a little finesse swim bait, a little swam or something like that was my go-to to see if there was even fish in the lake, or when I got in those heavy pressured situations or those tough conditions, that would be I would rely on it. Now it's this, and you don't need forward facing sonar. You can do it wherever you fish, but whether it's top of the bottom column, mid column, or bottom, the bottom of the water column, down there on the bottom, the fish just react to it because it's a swimming action that they haven't seen. You know, the bait does a roll to roll side deal, a side to side flip flop, and it doesn't have that tail kick. So these fish they will eat it when they won't eat a lot of other finesse techniques. So if you're not familiar with strolling or Damiki rigging, basically it's just that. You're slowly bringing this bait back above fish's heads, and you're giving it slow little or quick little shakes as you reel it in, and this bait's just flip-flopping, and you can keep it above the fish's head. You know, fish most often when they're hunting are looking up, unless they're on, you know, feeding on a crawdad or jig or something like that. Thermocline's down there near the bottom, they're down there on bottom. But if they're mid column, they're always feeding up. So you fire this thing out there and just start twitch, 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 twitch as I'm slowly reeling, and that bait's just going side to side. And it's an action, it's a swimming motion that these fish aren't used to seeing. It's a lot of flickering, a lot of flash, and the fish just eat it. But this is a technique that was from overseas in Japan. It's a fairly easy technique to do. Like I said, you don't need really any special equipment for it. You know, you could take your favorite 6'10" to 7'2" medium to medium plus powered rod, a fast tip, and just start to shaking a minnow. It is a fantastic technique any month of the year, but especially in the summer months when it gets really tough, that strolling thing really, really works. So let's talk about when and where to use it. So basically, it doesn't matter if you're on a highland reservoir and you're on the main, out on the main body and main lake point. You know, a lot of times these fish will be out there, whether they're suspended or they're down on bottom, depending on their mood. Throw it out there, start shaking, right? Doesn't matter if they're on bottom, out there mid column, but again, main lake points, all of your favorite areas that you would throw your favorite finesse swim bait. That's really all you have to do. So when and where, I like to be around bait fish. Obviously, summertime, you need to be around bait fish. You find the bait, you find the bass, that's just kind of the deal. But offshore structure, basically, you know, I'm not fishing it in and through the cover or structure, whatever it is, whether it's a brush pile, a lay down, a rock pile, obviously you're up and above. but basically up and above, and these fish are gonna come up and feed up out of it. Even when these fish aren't active, that's what's key. You know, I did a video a couple weeks back talking about, a week and a half back or so, talking about the struggle bus and the struggle of summertime bass fishing. If you're not around active fish, it can be a grind where you have to slow down and finesse fish, and this plays right into it. So if you haven't played around with the strolling technique or the Demiki rig technique, it is an awesome technique. And like I said, it does not need to be used with forward-facing sonar. You can go out to your favorite main lake point, your favorite rock pile, your favorite stretch of bank, anywhere you throw your finesse swim bait, and this thing will catch fish. So I have some baits for you. I got some heads, you know, because there is a learning curve to this. You know, having the right head paired with the right size bait so that you can fish the right depth, that all comes into play. Again, we're not trying to cover as much distance as we are to sit there and just shake and slow moving it. There is a whole deal with playing that cat and mouse game, speeding it up. Sometimes I'll be shaking it, just slow, you know, shaking it, and then I'll kind of speed up. And a lot of times that's when I get my bites. Just like if I'm speed cranking, just having that cadence change is key. But for the most part, you throw it out there, you start shaking, all of a sudden your rod tip just loads up. You know, they don't hit it, most of the time they don't hit it hard. You just kind of feel that rod get heavy and you kind of load into them. It's just a subtle bite. It's a I don't want to say easy bite, but it has produced fish for me when I've been fishing like the mouth of a creek where it pours into the main river, the mouth of a backwater, and I've thrown a glide bait, I've thrown an A-rig, I've thrown a worm, I've thrown a swim bait, and then tied this on, threw it out there in 3-pounder, 2-pounder, 3.5-pounder. It's just something that works, and you guys should try it. So when and where, talked about it right now. Right now, all the way through the rest of the year, this thing works amazingly well, especially on pressured, lethargic fish, okay? Where we kind of talked about it, doesn't matter if you're on bluff walls, main lake points, high spots, laydowns, brush piles, anywhere as long as you're not in grass. You could fish it along grass lines, anywhere you would throw your favorite finesse swim bait. Best time to throw it, I'd say, I've been having a lot of luck during the midday afternoon, right? When it's scorching hot and the fish just aren't active, you know, firing this thing out, even if I'm not middle of the column, maybe I'm just fishing around bottom. Let's say I'm in 20, 25 feet. I'm throwing out there. Let it get down. Now this is a key tip. This has produced so many big bites for me. Basically, I let it get down. And in my mind, I'm picturing these fish just sitting there staring at it. And what I will do 1, 2 snaps, and then I'll start shaking it and burning it. Basically, this thing is like a dead bait fish laying on bottom. I'm picturing they're looking at it, and then it pops up and starts to scoot away. And normally after my second hop and my second or third handle turn, they load up, and a lot of times it's a 5-pounder, 6-pounder, 7-pounder, the big fish. So once I'm on bottom, I hop up, or on bottom I'll pop, and then and they're on. So again, you can fish it on bottom, you can fish it mid column, you can fish it up in the water column, around docks, but having this thing going side to side, shimmying, again, having that flicker, having that flash, that movement that they haven't seen is really key. So that's a cool little bait right there. We'll talk about that here shortly. But as far as, you know, we talked about when and where. As far as like the gear, like I said, you don't need anything special to start out with this technique. You can take your favorite drop shot rod, your favorite Nico rig rod, it will work. There are a bunch of different heads. You know, I have them all the way down to like 1/96 of an ounce, all the way up to, you know, 1/2 ounce, 5/8. But if you have a rod that can throw the majority of the heads, you're golden. With that said, this tip right here. This is a solid tip X Pride. It comes in a medium and a medium heavy. This is the 610 medium heavy SB solid tip. So I use the medium heavy for my little bit heavier heads, and I use the medium for my lighter heads. More importantly, this solid tip right here, this section from here to here is solid. It comes from the ice fishing world. It's easier to detect subtle bites. Like I said earlier, a lot of times they don't hit this bait very hard. When I first started trying this technique, I found myself not really realizing I had a bite until they were gone. Okay, so having that subtle deflection, that subtle change in weight, a lot of times they just come up and just slurp it and they start turning the side a little bit, and that's when you reel down and load up. But having that solid tip really helps with those subtle bite detections. So X Pride, like I said, the 610 medium and the 610 medium heavy with a solid tip, paired up with a 2500 or a 3000 size reel, braid 2 liter. Again, sensitivity is key. Again, it's a really finessey technique, but it produces big bites. With that said, you know, we're going to talk about some other baits. Doesn't mean you have to throw small baits. This is the big guy from Demiki. That's the 7-inch armor shad, paired up with an owner head. But again, out here on the Tennessee River, I'm fishing for fish that are chasing gizzard shad. So I don't have to necessarily fish this thing in the middle or the top of the water column. When I get down, again, pop, pop, and I'm just shaking that rod tip, just turning that handle, and all of a sudden it just loads up, and then you're in for a fight, right? So 10, 12, 15 pound braid to a 8, 10, or 12 pound fluorocarbon leader is typically what I'm using for my gear. But again, it's a really fun technique. It just produces bites. So that guy, I have this one actually paired up on a Megabass. This is the Addermine rod that works really well for the little bit heavier heads. But Strolling, for the most part, when it first started, was talking about like little itty bitty baits. Demiki rig was a little armor shad on a head, and now it's evolved into throwing the big boys, throwing the bigger. I'm not gonna say swim baits, but the bigger, larger baits on those jig heads and producing the big bites. So the one thing with this technique is I like to, just a few tips on the actual strolling technique. Long casts. Again, I can't say this enough. You don't need forward-facing sonar to use the strolling technique, the Demiki rig technique, whatever you want to call it, jig and minnow, right? Long casts. Again, these fish are pressured. These fish have been fished for all, you know, we're in August, all the way through the year, and you want long casts. A lot of times I'll pull up to a community spot or a community hole or a well-known area. I'll turn off my electronics. I'm not even using my electronics because I know these fish are pressured. I know they're wary. I know they're smart. I know there's low oxygen in the water and they're lethargic. They don't necessarily want to chase. So that's when I will use this technique. It is an amazing technique to produce bites when you have all those boxes checked against you. Like I said, long casts, be quiet, be subtle, and then again, every once in a while add that cadence or that speed up to your cadence to kind of pull that. In my mind, I'm imagining, you know, a bass following, and I speed up. So it's either got to decide to turn off or speed up and eat. And a lot of times I can generate bites like that. But keep that bait above the fish. You don't have to necessarily be down on bottom. You could be 2 or 3 feet off of bottom. If you're up in the middle of the water column, just keep that bait up there. Nice level retrieve. You don't need to do big hops and drops or anything like that. But just that steady shake, steady reel, speed it up every once in a while, and I promise you guys will catch fish on this technique. Now, let's talk about the baits themselves, because there are some specific baits for this technique that have produced a lot of bites for me. So let's go, we'll go smallest. This guy right here. This is the Mooch Minnow from Crush City. It's a TPE bait, very very durable, very stretchy, And again, ultra light line, 6-8 pound tests, small heads. Again, we're keeping that bait up and above that fish, but it has a little different tail on it. So it kind of does like a little kind of a shimmy. But again, with the strolling technique, it's really important to get that side to side action. So pairing it up with that's that range roller head by Owner. It has weight up by the line tie to raise the center of gravity so that bait becomes unstable, so it's easier to flip side to side. So that is a killer little combo right there. Again, that little Mooch Minnow by Crush City is an awesome bait fish, smaller bait fish bait. Okay, now I'm going to kind of work up through the sizes because again, it's matching the hatch. It's totally dependent on your fishery and the forage in your fishery. But next up for me is going to be the Stroll Shad, the 4-inch Stroll Shad by Hog Farmer. You guys have heard of the Spunk Shad. It basically elongated the Stroll Shad, put a little whippy tail on it. And this bait right here, I have it tied on, I know I do, has produced so many big fish for me in that Tennessee shad color, paired up with that is the Dirty Jigs Guppy HD. It's a 2-aught stout hook, so you're not going to bend it out. But that little combo right there has caught so many big fish for me with this technique. But the 4-inch Stroll Shad, the 5-inch Stroll Shad are two killer different baits. Again, having that two-tone of that bait really shows that flash, that side-to-side action. I guess I should talk about this one because this is kind of the one that everybody's talked about, couldn't get forever. The Sakamata Shad. That's really what kind of put this technique, the craze, right? People were waiting in line. They're buying stuff on eBay. I saw like hordes of people at different East Tennessee Fishing Show just grabbing baskets of these things. They're really hard to get. That they are one of the original baits for this technique. It's a winged bait and has super soft, has a ton of action. Again, it's all about that action. It's all about that finessey presentation. But I needed to throw that in there if you can get them. Back to some more realistic baits to get. This guy right here, the Crush City Freeloader. That is that first bait that Crush City came out with. Produced several wins between this and the Mooch Minnow. That Tennessee Shad has been lights out for me throughout the country. But again, this is an awesome chatterbait trailer. It's an awesome strolling bait. It works extremely well. Having that pintail down there, the ribbed tail, just has a ton of action. And for whatever reason, the fish just eat it. All right, last but not least is this guy right here. This is the Fat Armor Shad by Demiki. This is a bait that I've been playing around with. Matt and I have been playing around now for the last couple months or so. It's a completely different profile than the other strolling baits. The other strolling baits are kind of slender, thin, have a real whippy tail. This has more of that fat belly shad profile, and the fish just love it. So I've been kind of 1-2 punching them with this and the Stroll Shad, the freeloader. But that Demiki Armor Shad, the fat, works extremely well if you're on a fishery where the main forage is shad and little bluegill, little panfish, that sort of thing. Now, one other tip I want to give you guys, one other bait I want to talk to you guys about real quick, and then we'll wrap this thing up. It's pretty hot out here. Actually, two. This guy right here. This is the Duo Realis. Where's it at? The BR fish and the BR head. See that head? How it's basically a darter style head, but it has the wings on it. And then you have the BR fish, the bait they make for it. Flat back, real slender bait. But this bait, you fire it out there and it's like a sub walking bait. So side to side to side to side. So if those fish are in an extremely chasing mood, that guy right there has an action unlike any of these other ones. A lot of them are just, you know, flip-flopping. This thing side to side to side to side, and it works extremely well on those aggressive fish. So I didn't want to leave that guy out, that BR fish. But if you guys are looking to kind of expand on the whole strolling technique, I challenge you guys, if you're around bigger bait fish, if you're around bigger fish, to throw some of the bigger baits. Right here you can see that is the 7-inch armor shad. Okay, again, I have that paired up with a head from Owner. I'll link that stuff down below in the video description, but that works extremely well around fish that are chasing big gizzard shad. So don't be afraid to expand on this technique. It's a technique that produces bites. Like I said, in the heat of summer, pressured fish, it produces bites when others won't. If you guys have any questions about, come on dog, what are you doing? If you guys have any questions about this technique, please leave them down below in the video description. I'll try to get to those as soon as possible. But if you guys haven't already, definitely check out, take your favorite spinning rod. This is a technique it's a lot easier to do with a spinning rod. Take your favorite 6'10" to 7'2" spinning rod with braid to leader. Go out, grab yourselves a head or two and some of these baits, and I promise you, you guys will have success. It's just a technique that works. It's a lot like the Senko. It's a lot like the A-Rig when it first came out. The fish just eat it. So guys, down below in the comment section, please leave me any of your questions. I'll try to answer those as soon as possible. But summertime, the struggle is real, and this is a finesse technique that has saved my butt so many times. Now it's on the deck with 1 or 2 or even 3 different variations throughout the day. But guys, as always, we appreciate the support. If you learned something from this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we will see you guys on the next video.